Okay, Dave Keys here with Solutions by Dave, and today we're looking at a little bit of information on the Miami Beach condo market. And looking at a recent article in Miami Herald, we see discussion about whether you should buy or rent. It's a little bit ambiguous, doesn't really draw a conclusion, but it points out some things that there are some differences between the average consumer or buyer and the industry itself, and then the overall financial markets, which are looking at signs of a downturn in the stock market. And traditionally, when we've had stock market and other financial downturns, it has greatly impacted the Miami area real estate market. We can presume that if you're looking to buy a home, then and you're planning to stay there, it may not be as critical. But if there's any liquidity desired or an expectation of an increase in value, well, values may be already quite high in this market for what it is. And so we look at recent trends and results, and we've got some signals here that could be hard to interpret, but you can certainly say what they don't mean. The number of sales over the last 5 years has gone downward, trend back up. Typically in the spring, the downward, trend back up. Here in spring, the downward again, and each cycle is lower than the previous one over 5 years for the number of sales. Now, the median price has continued to increase. My opinion is that that's driven by investor purchases, which I think are tapering off now. It does look like we have a lot of price come up and back down. They hit kind of a ceiling and move back down. Now, of course, if we have major events in the stock market or financial sectors, like was mentioned before, that can be expected to have a negative impact on prices as well. The prices could increase in number of sales, but the problem with that is if prices are on a downward trend, that doesn't make the investment market any happier. It doesn't make it look like a more attractive investment. Now let's look at median price for rent and median of the number of rentals, and you see that price for rent has gone down over the last year. And we had a increase in the rentals and it started tapering off. It seems to me like the market is hitting that kind of ceiling again, where it's not going to take off and go anywhere. And that's kind of the things to pay attention to, what the market is not going to do, what you can expect not to be true. And that can help you determine what's true about the market. So here we've got market trends for just Miami. You see it's following the same kind of signals on the rent. The rent has kind of tapered off and is on a downward price trend, and the number of rentals is on a downward trend as well. Now here we've had a steady increase in prices, median sales price, but not so much the number of sales. That continues to hit a ceiling and now is trending a little bit downward. And once again, we can see that market conditions may negatively impact that. So now we've got some articles coming out recently in Miami Herald talking about the new record for a condo sale in Miami Beach. Now, this is indicative of a luxury market, which kind of runs on its own engine, the luxury markets. And financial things can affect them too, but in a different sort of way. These folks have money and they're going to spend it when they're ready, generally regardless of current financial events, unless they're huge. Now, this article says the condo market may be suffering from too much supply, but some record-setting deals are still being made. Well, those aren't necessarily coinciding in terms of cause and effect. There may be too much supply that may be harming the market, and yet record-setting deals happen at a different level in luxury markets no matter what. Okay, so here, Miami is getting lots of new apartments, but you may not be able to afford them. And maybe that article is a little bit out of sync because rental prices are going down and prices of buying these units are not going up. And also this is Brickell, which is known for luxury condos, but obviously it's not like a massive ocean view. Somewhere peeking between those buildings, like right there in that little strip there, you might see a little bit of ocean. So there's a different kind of market. And this talks about people who bought in this market 10 years ago, 12 years ago, what happened to them. Of course, in 2008, they got locked down like everybody else if they bought in the mid-2000s, and then the market crashed, the Great Recession. This caused the market to suppress home sales. People who had bought at higher prices were locked in, and a lot of them still are kind of locked in. Most real estate prices have not quite caught up with 2006, 2007 levels. Some have. So now they're talking about a crisis in Miami. The new high-end supply would help ease the market, free up older, more affordable units, but there's so many people in Miami dealing with cost burdens. Low rent units are in greater demand. And even though this says landlords can raise the rent, that hasn't happened. Looking at a couple more articles from a source is not so optimistic, which is the Miami New Times. And it's pretty blunt. It says Miami Beach is among the worst real estate markets in the U.S. We've got some luxury condos here. Like we saw earlier, the number of sales has continued to decrease. I expect that once that number of sales continues and the high-end market maybe stops influencing the median price so much, that you'll see data reflect really a downturn in the market. Same thing in this article here, that developers overbuilt so many Sunny Isles condos that they have a 2-year backlog. And of course they have data to back that up. And yet building continues in that area. So are we looking at a scenario where it's a great idea to invest in these properties? Well, doesn't appear so. It doesn't appear that, other than the ultra luxury end of the market, that it might still be attractive to investors. A lot of these properties stand to go down in their value once purchased. So if you really want it, great. And there's a lot of properties available for under $500,000. Certainly not the penthouse ocean view, but lots of condos available, so you can live in Miami Beach in Miami if you want to. But if you're expecting this to be a scenario where your price is going to go up and you can sell, that's kind of a misnomer we should have learned as consumers back in 2008. The idea that all real estate continues to increase in price. No, it doesn't. It's been on a run for several decades with now some interruptions. And Miami, this is not the first, because they had a 1987 crash in the Miami market, and of course 2008. And it looks like they're probably poised for another downturn in real estate. So you can't presume that it's something that's going to increase in value. It may decrease, and it may decrease suddenly. So that's it for this, and this is Dave Keith signing off.